Metamorphosis, that poo-poo reason why straight boys get off to destroying women.
Electric chair.
What the fuck are you even trying to say?
What was the point?
Yeah,
we got to the end and we were all confused.
And it's like, you only, like, we didn't really get to see a metamorphosis. We just saw the destruction of her, but never seeing her rebuild. So, like, we don't even get a full metamorphosis. So, which kind of just tells me, like, so you just want to see her getting destroyed.
Abused.
That's who it is.
Destroyed, abused, corrupted, like... Which
And
those are kinks in itself. I don't think I'm allowed to say that word.
Goodbye.
And I don't even think using the excuse of, oh, she was scared, or like she couldn't, like she was too scared to say anything. It's like, you didn't even write her being too scared to say anything. She was just like confused and like accepting it, like, this feels weird but then great, and oh my gosh, I can't believe he's doing this. And
I guess
like,
the metamorphosis was because she was a little nerd girl, and then she
metamorphed into that.
Right, into destruction and horribleness. Also, okay, let's get into it, cause girl.
But you asked what I felt about reading it, and yeah, it was awful.
I'm gonna give you a 0.
Bitch, welcome back to the Crimson Report, and all you nasty, straight, perverted people that like to read extreme kink and all that shit, we're looking at you because, bitch.
Origami Alteria.
Not this.
Not this at all. Let me tell you something. Metamorphosis?
The world is your runway.
Goodbye.
We're not here for it.
Go home, and before we start this public execution of this storyline, fellow sister, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Fresh off of a nice, delicious green salad. And well hydrated, of course.
Hello. So, finally we're back in the Crimson Report room. We have some breaking news because we've just gotten a hold of a certain piece of media that we're now questioning. Who was this written for, and why was it ever written? Pourquoi?
I think this is also certain interests that are very, like, questionable. Like, this is definitely red flags, the series, because if this is not, like, if somebody came up to me and they were like, oh my gosh, I love this series, and, like, the way they did this, I would be kind of looking at them like, okay, girl, why?
You're like, so of course we're talking about the manga Metamorphosis, which came out, I believe, around 2013. So we're going to go with a few pages and we're going to surmise the whole thing and narrate our feelings through it as we do. So this is about, it starts with our main character, Saki. I did not remember that bitch's name.
Saki-chan!
So Miss Saki is over here. She's a normal girl. In one of the first panels, we get an established shot of she's a normal girl, goes to school, bored, treated like a Best Buy employee. Boring life.
Like a Best Buy?
But like... my sister dying. So then... we can slowly see the establishing shot of Saki being a normal girl. Nami being...
Well, here's the thing. She didn't have any friends. She went through all of middle school not having any fucking friends. And she wanted to get into high school to make a new start. But the problem is that she kind of fell into that whole, like, well, I'm going to keep to myself. And then started, like, kind of, like, begrudgingly, like, going against, like, oh, those girls that hang out, they're bitches or whatever. Right. But then... when she got her little makeover and got super cute over the summer and then went into high school, people were looking at her different, were immediately treating her different, and she meets this fucker at the convenience store randomly. It's like her going to the gas station and then like some rando like starts hitting on her and she just like decides to go out with him like right then and there.
And this boy, what's his name?
Hayato. We hate this man. He is a bitch.
What's going on? Y'all are going to jail! Period!
He is literally just took advantage of a young girl, and basically he was basically every problem this girl
catalyst.
Has. Right. He is there responsible for it. We see him basically, I think, take her virginity, be his first, introduce her to some things, and we can see her slow spiral downwards where she kind of I feel like because of the, what is it called? Oh, the makeover, she's now exploring like, oh, I'm getting this attention now. Which we're like, okay, so far we're like, fine, we can process this slow and steady.
Here's the thing, like, as like the female experience of going from like an ugly duckling situation into a beautiful swan and then getting all this attention or whatever, they don't even write her as like being kind of like knowing, I guess. Like, they write her as like, oh my gosh, like this is already happening so fast. But then when she's put into these situations where like she's obviously not into it, like they only have it like her thinking to herself like, oh no, he's doing this, or oh no, I can't believe he's about to do this. But then she just kind of keeps going along with it. Like, they don't even attempt to try and show any resistance. They were just like, look at this that she's going along with. So it's just like the shock value of it, of what they get away with, because she just allows it to happen and she goes along with it.
And she keeps going along with things like her friends basically tell her like, hey girls,
go through compensated dating.
If you're already being a hoe, you might as well just get paid for it. Like, and it's like, all right.
She was like, they thought she was some kind of rich girl or whatever because of the makeover and stuff. So they're like, well, if you want more money, you could just try this, and like you don't have to do anything. You just run out and pretend to snitch.
And then we have
so
her,
that they could get in trouble.
We have her coming up with this ugly ass old man. This is one of her first customers, where she kind of realizes,
the first time she does it,
she kind of realizes that she doesn't want to do this. But then they write her like, oh, but with this money, I'll get what I want. And it's like, no ma'am. All right, whatever. Trying to establish something. And then this next coming one is where y'all lost me, because bitch, I was ready to burn this whole series to the ground. So now we get introduced to a new part where she's going through her things. She's at home, and basically her dad starts molesting her. Straight up.
Like, so the second she gets her makeover, he's already looking really awkward over his newspaper or whatever at her, because, you know, the wife is like, oh my gosh, doesn't she look beautiful? And he's like, yeah. And then when he finally is like, hey, I lost my job. And she's like, well, I can go get a job. And he's like, no, this is none of your business. And she's like, Dad, I'm old enough to like get a job. And the mom's like, yeah, she can go work. And then she had mentioned, she's like, she's a young woman now. And then the dad started looking at her all types of crazy.
Which goes to my first question.
Disgusting.
About why this was like, okay, you're gonna throw an incest rape situation. Got it. That's been done before. Like, it's part of your life. Why?
For what?
Like, what this is the first interaction we're getting with her dad. And so first of all, we know that she's being mistreated at school. She's being mistreated by her new boyfriend. She's being mistreated by her family.
Which, by the way, they didn't really like. She just went along with this narrative of like, oh yeah, you're my boyfriend now, even though he was just like, oh, I'll call you whenever I want to hang out. And hanging out just entailed more shenanigans.
So it's very much like, what? And then to lay up on top, because then we thought, okay, fine, that's just your dad abuse, anything. Then she goes home. She has an experience where everything's wrong, or she was humiliated. She goes home and she goes to like confide in her mom. And then her mom not only slaps the shit out of her, she goes, bitch, like, don't you know that you're a family? Don't you know that it's wrong? Bitch, if I was with that hoe, when I promise you, I would have throat punched that hoe.
Let's go!
In her fucking neck, and it would have taken all the charges. Because as a mama, why are you telling your child that just got molested that it's her fault that she took? This is also that syndrome of old, bitter, nasty bitches that have molesting ass, pedophile ass husbands that then do that shit to other little kids. Then they want to get mad at the child to be like, no, but not my husband, because my husband is mine. It was like...
So you're saying that your child is the predator here? Especially when the mom in the very beginning was like, yeah, I'm always going to be on your side. And then get this, she just left school after like... all of her female classmates and friends are now turning against her and bullying her because they're like, oh, you're getting too crazy with the boys. But it's because the boys found her leaving a hotel room late at night, and they were like, oh, that's you, huh? So you do that, huh? All right, well then do this to me in the hallway. And now everyone's getting tired. So she's getting beat and destroyed at home.
She literally is punching the shit, calling her a whore, and like literally seducing my husband, your own father, get out of this house. It's like, you fictional bitches that fucking destroy your kids. Just, my thing is, bitch, you had the child.
Right.
Like she didn't ask to be born.
Like, if anything, because she's so beautiful, she is extra vulnerable to, especially when she's considerably, like, withdrawn and shy before. Like, she obviously didn't have many friends before the makeover. So it's like, now that she's going through all these changes, like, the mom, you would think the mom would be like, okay, listen, boys are gonna start talking to you and start acting a little crazy. Oh, and now my husband is out here acting crazy on top of that. See, like, your cuteness is too much, so we gotta go. We gotta ditch this man. But no, instead she, like, disgusting. First of all, the fact that this grown-ass bitch, like, after you find out that your partner ended up touching
your child,
you're not even just a child, but your own child, why would you still pick his side?
Also, the man was big, fat, and ugly.
Right.
So, mama,
let me tell you something. In these
oh, please go ahead. I know what you're about to say.
In these types of stories, can I tell you that this is the one trope that I just absolutely hate is the damn ugly bastard.
The pig.
Trope. The pig man.
Ugh.
Too bad. Flamethrower. Disgusting.
Where they're a businessman and I know Tino Shea.
And their stuff is like smelly and rotten and like.
Why?
Why?
My thing is, who is getting? Is this to please the nasty, fat, pig, disgusting people that see themselves in this? Like, is that the tea? Because I've never found any type of like. Why would I hate it the most. And this is us not being inclusive, but it is. I just don't like what this stereotype represents. That the girls are always like, yes, yeah, I need you. You need to get. I've started to get
becoming dickmatized.
I've started to see some of the straight hentais, and let me tell you, the girls always want a baby, a womb full,
leaking,
sprouting, like cum guzzling whores. That's the only way. And that's the direction that this Asaki was kind of written in, because I was telling my sister, like, it becomes certain points where no matter what her personality was, no matter what her traits were,
she had no sense of danger. Like, all of these things that were happening in front of her, there was not even one moment where she was like, oh girl, maybe I need to like leave this situation.
But as soon as they treated her like a man, like she was acting like a man in the way, as long as she got her nut, she was good. It didn't matter. You could do whatever the fuck.
Like, she was addicted and like
which leads
brainwashed into being like this like mindless, like, oh, I'm here for, you know, intercourse all the time with anybody. And then this strikes up this next, basically with her mom doing all that, she's going through all these character conflicts. Boom. Now Hayato over here being like, so how about you try these drugs now? Tired!
And she's, you know, reluctant or whatever, but again, peer pressured as hoe, she's gonna end up doing it. She went through a whole motherfucking scene where she was very excited because of the effects of certain usages of stuff. And they basically took advantage of her and decided to pierce her breast and to pierce her private purse.
Her vagine.
Her vagine was pergined. So, and she was over, and they depicted it like as soon as they did it, the piercing sensation, because she was on an effect, she was like, oh, you know, just like water fountains of all everywhere. And that, reading that, I was just like, I looked at it so sideways, because it's like, this is depicting like, this is some kind of like, not, I don't want to say torture, but like, you know how some people are like into that, where it's like they kind of push the boundary a little bit, and it's placed in the scene where it's like, this is torture. Questionable. No, I know what you mean by it's like beyond the norms of like regular sexual activity, like with beyond kinks.
Yeah, because like even
like she's not getting slapped or like tickled, or like even with BDSM, where it's like you're like, let's say, bound and tied and like getting flogged and like whipped or like anything like that. It's like to actively, I know people that do like knife play and shit like that, but like, I don't know, to like little baby pierce me, like, oh Jesus, like, my Jesus. Which that is the first step that leads into her basically tanning her skin, going blonde, and then eventually she has to realize that she's pregnant and she decides to have an abortion. This is one point. It's
not the first one.
Right. This is the one point where I was trying to humanize her, because she understood that, okay, I can't be bringing a child up in this world or whatever. But then,
Here we go.
As we keep going, we see that she turns back to another old, nasty, disgusting stereotype that was again used to make her be like, you know what? As long as I'm getting a sexual satisfaction from this person, and $2 apparently.
Yeah, because she gave a discount because he was like, I don't know, you looking kind of used.
Oh yeah, this one was the one that reminded her of her first customer. And then she was even like she was put into a position where him being ugly and undesirable, he noticed that he had one type of leverage over her, and he used it. So he basically, in my eyes, made her degrade herself. He made her call her a pig. I was like,
he's like, oh, so you're willing to do anything for the $1? All right, well then,
squeal like a pig.
Squeal like a pig. Jump around like an idiot.
It's like, I don't know. And then that just leads into more spiraling that eventually gets her thrown in the garbage. Bitch, how sad do you have to be to get thrown in the garbage?
Right, with no clothes on.
Like, I was even thinking about that. I'm like, damn, even people
and she said, not again.
Like, this has been done before. You only get treated how you let people treat you.
Right.
Because let me tell you, put your hands on me, she should have shattered a bottle in somebody's neck.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have touched me. Then she keeps spiraling down. Now she goes back to Hayato. Hayato's realized that she's been spending her pimping money that she owes him.
Or she'll just, instead of getting cash, she'll just trade favors for more drugs.
More drugs to feed her habit. So then, boom, she's kicked out. Then, this part, oh Lord. She gets kicked out, and if you're kicked out, you're gonna be without a home, aka homeless. So she's wandering around, and I believe she's on some stuff still, or she
like, took the last remaining hit that
and
she
she's
had.
like rubbing her clam pot over and over, and these two homeless men come up, and they're just like, oh hey, blah blah blah, like, we're basically just gonna take advantage of you and do something without your consent. And they basically DP her, and it's explained in the way that how foul it was, how degrading it was, how she hated it. But then it got to a point where she was being used to satisfy somebody else, that where she found fulfillment in that, which is where I kept going like, why? Mm-hmm. Which leads up to the next morning where she just chunks and barfs everything out because
and especially when they were like, oh hey, just so you know, you don't have to worry because, you know, a lot of people here haven't seen a woman in a long time, so you're gonna have use around here. Like, oh,
on top of that, one of them was kissing her and she was like, ew, you're stinking. He's like, of course, I don't brush my teeth. Death.
Right.
Like, goodbye. And then the gaggiest panel, because we're almost towards the end, she's like, you know what? I'm keeping the baby. Mm-hmm. Go to hell.
Girl, good luck to the best house.
Bitches like you deserve to just be thrown. Why?
Like, what is the point of that?
You just threw up all over yourself.
Like, how are you gonna support that? And she was already in debt from getting the last abortion.
So it's not even like she's got an upper hand in this. So then, fast forward, last chapter, she's basically missing a tooth, being pregnant, getting dogged out.
Full on pregnant. Like, she's like in full term.
8 months in, she's getting dogged out by these people. She's just getting destroyed. And then she's getting I think she was on her way to do something about her child, and she runs into like these classmates.
She was actually going to put money away. She was stashing money to do stuff, but she's still like low key getting drugs every once in a while, and then being like, "No, just kidding." And I don't know why. And they found her putting her money away, so they're like, "Ooh, this bum has a bunch of money," and she's like, "Get away!" And then they're like, "Bitch, shut up!" So they started fighting her.
Oh yes.
Oh, and doing a lot more than that. So.
They were literally kicking her pregnant self down to the ground, like her stomach.
Which, again, it's like, why are we doing this to a pregnant woman? Like,
stab everybody. Bitch! Yeah, that was my question. Like, what was the purpose? What was the point? Like,
I don't get it.
There was no point in any of that. They step on her. And once again, the aspect of her, like, being depicted like she's enjoying it. It's like, what?
Like, what is happening? Like, oh, she's so addicted to
The pain?
to the like, I guess the sex and like the pain and just like the abuse.
Like, at this point, we were reading it, and I was just like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm just like, what the hell is gonna happen next?
Like, I didn't get the point of just stepping on her, because no tea, no shade, like, you can go to jail for that. Like,
right, like...
So it's very much like, so y'all were just willing to do this in the open without, like, again, this was, again, just the universe maybe setting it up so she was the martyr of the story.
Oh,
and
God.
she was like, 1, 2, 3, woe is me, woe is me. Yeah, so they destroy her, and then they, like, shove a water bottle up in her, destroy her. And then they leave, like nothing happened. Like, okay, girl.
They take all her money and then she goes.
So then she basically understands that her life is garbage. She puts her glasses back on, tries to recreate her young childhood look.
How she was before.
And
then she just wakes up from fucking the nightmare.
Which... let's give the whole summary, and then we'll talk about the end, because... So the end is basically she wakes up, she has a nice little black bob now, and we see Hannah, her little child.
Her child, yep.
Let's read verbatim. So it says, Mama doesn't need to cry anymore. You're right, because I have you now, Hannah Chan. And then there's some silence, and it says, because you were there for me, Mama could make a fresh start in life. This is poo-poo.
That's who it is.
Because it ends like her glasses being on the floor, like, look at me, I did another metamorphosis into a happy mom.
Which it's like, we didn't get any of, obviously, the transition into that.
Right.
And then also the fact that, let's say, like, sometimes in these, like, Asian countries that, like, women get, like, mistreated or, like, looked down upon for less things. So the fact that y'all are trying to depict her as, like, super... I mean, which is great. Everyone's redeemable after such going through terrible situations and adversity and all of the things. But it's like, girl, if this is not just romanticizing, like, getting destroyed, and then she's like, well, she came back like a beautiful flower. She bloomed through adversity.
Where, let's be honest, in real life, if they knew her tea, she would not.
Right,
she'd be
she would
suicidal.
be a single mom forever. Like, no one's gonna want to touch her, even look at her. She's a disgrace to the family.
Especially in other cultures where that's super looked down upon.
Oh, yes.
So it's very much like, what was the point? Let me tell you something. For the first time in Monastery history, this is a fucking 0 out of 10.
Right. This
like,
is a 0 out of 10.
There was nothing, and we like to be objective, plays the devil's advocate. The way the some of the art was drawn was okay, like nice. You can see fluidity.
Even just like looking at it from an aesthetic, like just like a drawing perspective, I was like, okay.
Work, but that's the only thing in some scenes, because other scenes you just the grotesque aspect was just like, ugh.
I was just like, okay, no.
For me, 0 out of 10.
I could have done without this.
You couldn't. For everybody wondering, you could never read this and you will be just fine. You could never pick this up.
Right. Just believe us when we say you don't have to read this.
It's like, if you want to read what seems to be a very hetero cis male perspective of what quote unquote metamorphosis is
for a sex worker,
enjoy.
Trapped in a terrible situation.
Because this is literally like the woe is me sadness victim story, but there's no happy ending.
Right. The supposed happy ending is just like,
just kidding. You were there for me when I needed you the most. Oh.
Right. Now, let me tell you something, audience. Children.
Come on.
Are not the answer to fix your problems.
No.
In these situations, in your relationship, like having a baby with your man or with your person
to keep them together, to keep the family together.
It's just gonna stress everybody out.
Go home.
So don't do it.
Please don't.
Do it out of love when you're rich and bored.
Because you know why this makes the child be like, you see, I became a mom. Everything is fine.
And it's like very much a toxic situation where, like, you know, there's like those children that have to take care of their parents, type of thing. Like, because their parent is kind of a hot mess. Like, doesn't this seem kind of? Yeah,
it looks like Hannah Chan is about to motherfucking put in some years, because Saki's about to. First of all, you think that all the shit you went through, you're not gonna project onto your daughter and be like, oh, you're not going anywhere, you're not going out, you're not having friends, you're not doing this, you're not having sex, you're not. You think that's not? She's just gonna be now, fucking, what is her name? Naruto's mama, just Kushina, just being like, Date bayo.
Not Date bayo. just don't see, like, so how did she come out? Did she find some man that was like, oh my goodness?
Let's do this. We're going to end up the video by giving you a little fan lore. So, first of all, she went back to her dad, killed. He's dead.
She got an inheritance.
She got his right. First of all, she didn't get caught. She poisoned him. Then she made sure that she was there when she was reading the will, because in the will it said that the mama would not get shit.
Her name was whited out.
It was all going to Saki, and then her mom had to cry and beg, and Saki said, I don't know who you are, sweetness.
Who are you?
But you are not getting none of my coin. Then she became homeless, and guess what? All those homeless men, they made a trip to her mama. Boom. Then after that, she said, you know what? I have to actually get an education. She went to DeVry. She got her degree.
Not
she got a degree at her own pace, okay? And she had the baby. Then she went
communication, bitch.
Then she got a part-time nanny in Hialeah, and she went to night school so that way she could establish herself. And now
she's in nursing school.
She is in downtown Miami, just getting her tea at what is it called, Bayside.
Come on, you know what? We live and stand. Sometimes people go through adversity. It reminds me of that story of there was this lady where she had created her own business because she saved up money from her days of dancing on the pole.
Work.
And she bought herself like an 18-wheeler, and she had her own trucking company, and now she's like
that girl
swimming in that money. So hello.
So, moral of the story, Saki, we are just erasing all your author-given lore and giving you a new start.